So this is the Spider top clamp and clip-ons mounted onto my 2026 RS660 factory. Currently, when you look over on, like, say, the AF1 website, for example, and you pull up this product, it actually doesn't show that it fits this bike, and I'm guessing is just because the base model does not have the Ohlins shock, which they say I think is like 41 millimeter versus 43 or something. And I actually even emailed them, and they said that, yeah, nobody makes one that fits this bike yet. And then I was like, okay. So I started looking, and if you look, you can actually see that the forks taper in. And I think, if anything, I haven't verified this, but the only thing that would be difference between the factory and the base model is potentially this lower clamp. But the upper clamp is definitely the same. So anyways, I just said screw it, and I went ahead and ordered it from AF1, and it fit perfectly. So it is what it is. I don't know, maybe they'll come out with a better version later in the year. Maybe I jumped the gun having a 26 and 25 or something, but it seems to fit perfectly. And then something interesting I noticed that is different than if you buy just the clip-ons by themselves. This set, actually, there's only one bolt here, where when you buy the clip-on by themselves without this full kit, those ones seem to, at least in the photo, have two bolts here. So that's kind of interesting. And then the other thing that was good to know was that with this being the one bolt on this side, it's hard to tell, but this bolt is actually inset in hair, just so as you thread it, it ever so slightly threads against the fork, obviously on your throttle side, just to give it that little bit extra more security of staying in place. So it's something at first I was kind of scared to do it, but they were clearly different from right to left to where that bolt was mounted in the clip-on. So I just went for it. So it is what it is. It seems to be pretty good. And then as I got it on, it's hard to tell now, but I essentially got pretty much exactly the same angle as the stock top clamp and bars. If it's maybe 1 degree pulled in, like 1 degree, but I essentially feels the same. I got it to be the same as far as I'm concerned. And then another thing was, for example, when in this state right here, I weighed this versus the top clamp and the clip-ons bare by themselves. The Spider set actually weighed probably I forget what exactly, but a couple, 2-3 ounces or something more than this, which I suppose is good because I didn't have the bar ends on when I weighed it, so that would kind of compensate for the loss of weight of not having these bar ends. So I think weight's a good thing up on your bars. It supposedly might help reduce vibration a little bit, so it is what it is. So that was before I had these bar ends as well. It comes, when you get it, it comes with these guys, these like 3D printed bar ends that just pop in. These are actually, I like these a lot. They're really nice. They're pretty cool. So that was actually the box for these bar ends, and these are pretty nice actually. I really like these, but this part is actually, it's really sharp if you happen to rake your arm or something across it. I was actually doing something, I was stumped over, and I got up and I bashed my shoulder against here, and it freaking annihilated me. So part of me maybe wouldn't recommend these just because they're a little sharp. Actually, if this was a little more rounded, might be better. I don't know, but they look good, and I like the feel of the sharpness as long as you don't accidentally bump into them. And then what else? Oh, here's another thing. So most people, every video I watched that I found, they end up having to remove this bolt, at least on one side, to get everything to come apart. And you can see right here, look, I mean, that bolt is threaded super far into this bar, and it has actually a ridiculous amount of the gnarliest red Loctite. That's even these things, like right here, those were a pretty much a nightmare to get out. They had, the Loctite was bad, but this Loctite is actually, it was worse, way worse. And I started taking it out. I was doing it by myself, and I literally couldn't do it. Just, I didn't want to scratch. There's just too much sensitive stuff here. It was like I was torquing so hard on it. I think you could only do it if you have a second person. So anyways, I had it off about, loosened about that much, and I just abandoned mission. I'm like, fuck, this is sketchy. So I ended up, I pulled it off with both things still connected, and somehow by pulling enough cable or whatever, I was barely able to pop off the throttle. That was the last part that I couldn't get off. These obviously unscrew, come off, those all that, everything came off easy except the throttle, but I somehow popped it off without scratching anything and without taking this apart. So it is possible. So just saying that. And then basically, it seems as long as you've got these, some sort of a stopper, these are the spider stops, and those are actually a 3D printed part, which is actually nice. So when you do bang it, it's kind of a, it softens the blow. If you are to bang it, it just feels nice. And if you wanted to give yourself a little more room, you could easily sand it down to kind of make it smaller if you needed to, being the plastic. So you definitely need some sort of stops in order to do this, to make it have the clearance. And I was actually using these things that I got originally. I had these just mounted onto the original stops, and this was actually a really a perfect size. The spider ones ended up being maybe like 1 millimeter bigger than this, so I don't know, but it was perfect. So both of those work pretty good. I think that maybe it was like a 5/8 or something, so it's not a metric when I bought it, but so I was like, I forget how many millimeters. And then so right now we've got pretty, this one has full clearance. If I adjust this all the way out, I can make it hit. No issues down there. Same with this side. This side actually hits a tiny bit, barely, but same thing. If I adjust it back, it could not touch, but it doesn't affect, it's not, it just touches it. It's not even really bumping into it. The other thing on this is right there, if you can see that, the brake cable. So that's one adjustment. It looks like it's touching the fork, but it's actually not. There's a little bit of space, and then this space, this is pretty close right here. So that's kind of why I'm not running this inside trim piece currently, is just because literally the only way to get it back on is I'll have to not take off, but loosen the levers, probably bring those back up, and just finagling it back in is pretty difficult. And same with this side, I have it out. And this side, I was actually had my phone mounted in here to a ram ball from the inside of the mirror. So I was kind of, that would be in the way, the trim piece would be in the way. So I thought of potentially cutting the trim pieces like right here. That way, when you take the fairing off, I could just leave this part in, and I would only have to take off the one screw for that. So yeah, this is, you actually have to loosen your little banjo bolt right there and tweak that to get it to clear, because it's a barely, there's barely enough perfect space to make it clear this and your fork. So, but it does work. And I think when I put the trim piece back on, or if I wanted to, it still would clear, but it would be close. It would be kind of close. So depending how aesthetically concerned you are on those trim pieces, I would assume you're going to have maybe a potential little rub, but nothing bad. Just more of a touch than a rub. Another thing, these are Pro Grips. I got these from Rocky Mountain ATV. They have, let's see, you can see better on this other side. They've got this little texture, these little lines. You could put that on the top. I like it on the bottom. That way the top looks nice and clean. You can see I've got it safety wired. I like doing that. What else about these to tell? I'm trying to think. Oh, this little, kind of unrelated, but that little guy I got from HSBK. There's like $8 or something. And then, yeah, I'm surprised actually how many people like the stock grips. I see people with thousands and thousands of dollars of modifications, and they have the stock grips and even the stock switches. I mean, I guess the stock switches are fine. They're good. They work. Maybe you could say they work better than these in some way, but they don't look as good. And I don't know. They look so cheap and crappy to me, honestly. And those grips too. The grips to me is like a Walmart e-bike grip or something. So this is like $17 or $20 or $30 worst case to get some new grips. Easy to do. Wire them up. I didn't use any glue. I just have them wired. This is like a knurled bar, so it stays pretty good. This, you don't even grab on this one quite as hard as I do on that anyway, but so I haven't had any issues with the grips sliding. And yeah.